Francis Collins and the Ignorance Bet. How can a biologist defend fine-tuning? It is fascinating and quite revealing when experts leave their domains of expertise and begin to make bold claims in areas they are not qualified in. Francis Collins, renowned biologist and the head of the Human Genome Project, is an example of this phenomenon. While he has contributed significantly to genetics, his endorsement of fine-tuning as an argument for God is nothing short of an ignorance bet, the act of exploiting gaps in knowledge rather than addressing them with scientific rigor. The fine-tuning argument, a convenient theological shortcut. The fine-tuning argument claims that the universe is precisely calibrated to allow life. If certain physical constants, such as gravity or the electromagnetic force, were slightly different, life as we know it would be impossible. Collins adopts this argument, suggesting that this precise calibration points to a God of order. However, fine-tuning is a physics-based claim, and physics is not Collins' field. The assertion that gravity, if slightly weaker, would prevent the universe from forming as it did is not a universally accepted fact. It is an assumption based on our limited understanding of physics. The unification of gravity and quantum mechanics remains an open problem. Even the best physicists in the world cannot say with certainty why the physical laws are the way they are, or if they even could be different. Betting on ignorance instead of science. Collins' approach is strikingly similar to Newton's mistake centuries ago. Newton believed that the symmetry in nature was evidence of God's design. However, modern medicine and biology have shown us that symmetry in living beings is imperfect. Organisms can have genetic mutations, asymmetrical features, and numerous biological flaws. Newton lacked the knowledge to see these imperfections, just as Collins lacks the knowledge to properly engage with the complexities of modern physics. Instead of consulting physicists or exploring alternative explanations, Collins inserts God into the gaps of our understanding, much like the outdated God of the gaps argument. The irony is that, within his own field of biology, he accepts evolution and genetic complexity without appealing to divine intervention, yet in physics, he defaults to theology instead of expertise. The theological bias of fine-tuning. There is another issue with the fine-tuning argument. It is heavily Christian-centric. It assumes that if the universe is fine-tuned, it must be the Christian God who designed it. But why not the gods of Hinduism, Buddhism, or any other religion? Science cannot afford to rely on religious preferences when explaining natural phenomena. Even if one were to accept the idea that the universe was fine-tuned by a deity, that still leaves the question of who fine-tuned the fine-tuner? The argument simply shifts the burden of explanation without solving anything. A biologist playing physicist. Collins' approach is deeply problematic because it follows a familiar pattern in religious apologetic. Just as engineers often challenge biologists by arguing for intelligent design, we now have a biologist challenging physicists by arguing for fine-tuning. This pattern exposes an uncomfortable truth. These arguments rely more on theological bias than on scientific rigor. In essence, Collins is behaving like a creationist of physics, applying scientific principles in his own field but abandoning them in another to fit a pre-existing belief system. Conclusion: science should seek answers, not gaps. Collins' fine-tuning argument is not based on scientific consensus, but on exploiting ignorance. Instead of asking physicists for explanations, he fills the unknown with God. True science, however, does not rest on unanswered questions. It seeks to answer them. The fine-tuning argument is not proof of divine intervention. It is simply a reminder that we do not yet understand everything about the universe, and that is precisely why science must keep searching rather than stopping at faith.